Good morning. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you receptive? Is your mind and heart open?
Yes.
Okay, good. I hope mine is too. Yes. So, today's topic is messages from loved ones. Actually, today marks the 40th day since the passing of Hans Carlsen. And our understanding is that there's a 40-day period when you go to spirit world before it's kind of decided, well, where you will be and what you will do. So I thought this was quite timely to talk about messages from loved ones. And so I have some questions for you on this topic. Have you dreamt of a loved one who has passed on? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you have dreamt of somebody in spirit, a loved one, like a parent, a grandparent, or any relative? Quite a few hands. Me too. Me too. I've dreamt about my parents. Have you felt their presence? How many of you have felt the presence of a loved one? And next, have you received signs from them? Signs. You have, okay. And my last question, have you received messages through a medium? A medium, you have? Yes, I have. So it's a strange reality because here we are on this earth, and we with each other every day or every week, and for many, many years, and then suddenly their life ends, and we don't see them anymore, but they're still existing. Most of us are not so spiritually open. Yeah. So we might get a little signs or may have dreams, but actually that person has gone. And in Hans' case, it was a shock because it was so sudden. And, my parents were very old, so therefore it was not a shock. And I didn't see them a few days before, but Hans, he was here. And when somebody passes into spirit world, then, especially if it's sudden and unexpected, it's very difficult. All of us here, well, half of us, or the first generation, we're now in our 60s and 70s. So actually, the question of when we will pass into the spirit world is becoming a bigger question. How many days have we got left? How many years? Yeah. Are we looking forward to ending our life here? Are we looking forward to the next world? Yeah. Or do we feel, no, there's so much I want to do? And for the younger people here, do you think much about life after death? Or you're so young, or maybe not so young anymore. You're getting a bit older, so it's kind of getting closer. And of course, last week, Queen Elizabeth died at the age of 96. 96. And she's remembered because she made a promise to God and to the country that she would serve the country to the best of her ability. And that's what she's recognized for. And what's very interesting is that this year marks 70 years of her reign as a queen. It's unprecedented. And there were celebrations, street parties. I think Felix went to a street party, to celebrate her life. And then there was a new leadership battle in the Conservative Party and a new leader, Liz Truss. And she went to Balmoral Castle, where the Queen was staying in Scotland, because that's what you have to do. If you are to become a prime minister, you have to be accepted by the Queen, formally. So she went there on Tuesday, and there's a photograph of them shaking hands, and the Queen is smiling. And then 2 days later, she died. And I think she probably died suddenly. It was, so now we have a new king, King Charles III. So I think in light of Hans's passing, in light of the Queen, who now the whole of Great Britain and many countries in the world are reporting about her life and how she lived her life. It's kind of a moment for us to reflect about our own lives and about those who we our loved ones, like our parents and grandparents or whoever. So I'd like to begin with this. So these are my parents. My father's Thomas Atkinson. He was born in 1911 and died in 2002. And his circumstances were that I was on my way to Korea for a workshop. And he gave me some money. He gave me money to go there. And he wished me luck. And while I was there, like a day later, I got a message that that he'd taken ill. So I phoned Ava, and by that time he'd already passed. But he'd spoken to her from the hospital and said, "Don't worry about me. I'll be out in a couple of days." And I thought, what a way to end his life. He helped me, and then he was wishing me luck, and he was saying, "Don't worry about me." And he was almost 89. And then my mother, she lived a few more years. She stayed in a care home. But my brother, who rarely was involved with my family, he was visiting her quite often, take care of him. So it's very good, you know, that she had someone, and also that he was investing in her. So when I found this picture yesterday, I get emotional, you know, because it's like you're seeing them there, and they're so familiar, but they're not here. And so although I believe they are in spirit world, but you know, we want some evidence. We want to know, because that helps us. If you don't believe in spirit world and the person's dead, then you feel that's forever, the loss. But if you believe there is life after death, then wouldn't we want to communicate? So actually, a few years ago, I had a vivid dream. A vivid dream is a dream where you know you're dreaming, and it's so real. And in this dream, I met them, and I was so surprised. I said, "Hey, you're alive." And they said, "Yes, we're alive." Yes. So, and it was so real to me. So when I woke up, I felt I'd met them. I'd left my body, my spirit had gone there, and I'd met them, and I was so happy. And it's like, I felt satisfied, you know. Another time I went to a medium, and the message from them was they were in a garden enjoying life, you know, in the garden. And so they both enjoyed gardening. And so the thing is, though, I mean, I don't have a kind of strong desire to keep communicating with them. I suppose because I'm focusing on life here, and I don't know what they're doing there, but I'm sure they're doing something good. Yeah, they actually received the blessing, so that was pretty good. But then I think, you know, well, why shouldn't I want to communicate with them? And why shouldn't they want to communicate with me? And maybe they are with me every day, but I don't know. It's a strange reality. Here we are for years and years, and then the person's gone, and we can't feel them or see them. Maybe some of us can, like you put your hands up, but there's not everyday communication. Wouldn't you like to talk to your loved ones in spirit world every day? Did you know that Father, years ago, he said, one day we'll be able to communicate with spirit world on the TV. Yeah. And he actually asked members to investigate a machine that could do this. You know, the TV, I said in one of my previous talks that my understanding is that the TV already existed in the spiritual world, but they had to find somebody on earth who had the technical ability and the interest and the passion to actually do it. And so they found that person. Therefore, I would think that if Father's saying make a machine, that it probably already exists in the spirit world, because it's all about vibration, isn't it? Wouldn't you like to switch on your TV and have a conversation with your loved ones and your ancestors? Don't you think if there had been no fall, you know, Adam and Eve could talk to Lucifer? Yeah, it's only because of the fall that we lost our sensitivity to the spirit world. Our senses became dulled. Yeah. well, I would like to talk to my parents. I'd like to ask them what they're doing and get some advice from them, because they can see much more clearly now. Yeah. Of course, there are other ways that those in spirit world communicate, through signs. The other day I was cycling and this butterfly came in front of my bicycle as I was moving. It almost landed on the handlebars. Then it went. So I thought, oh, who was that? And then a few minutes later, another one. And then a third one. I think, is someone trying to communicate with me? Maybe not. But actually, the spirit world can manipulate the physical world, like especially animals and nature. And here's an example, because here, Owl visits 98-year-old grandma. So this lady, this is from this year. 2 years ago, her husband of 70 years passed away. And then 2 years later, on the kind of anniversary of his funeral, this owl came onto her balcony and visits her every day, and she's a Catholic, and so she doesn't believe that that's her husband. But her family, they believe that, because it's like a chatty bird. It keeps coming. So who knows? But certainly this phenomena of sending some kind of some message through like a symbol, through an animal, it does happen. Okay, so let's then look at what is our understanding. So our understanding is there are 3 stages of life. We're in this womb of liquid for 9 months, but we're preparing our lungs to breathe air in the physical world. We live here for maybe 70, 90 years, some beyond, some less. And then finally, we leave our physical body. It's done its job. And we enter the spiritual world, which is meant to be a world of love. Of course, if there's hell, which was not created by God, it's because the people their spirits were so deformed and so dark that they created hell. But actually, God created the spirit world to be a place of love and freedom. And that during our physical life, we grow until we are ready to enter the spiritual world. And this is an eternal world. And there we are so much freer. I remember a few years ago in Denmark, Marjorie's husband, Marjorie Hill, her husband, he had cancer. And that was the time when True Father was visiting and giving a speech there. And he met, Brian was his name, Brian. And Father said to him, don't worry, it's much better up there. Yeah. So actually, we shouldn't really be sad. But then when I look at my picture of my parents, I feel some emotion because, where are they? I want contact. So what does Father say about life and death? He says this. Though we live in this world, we know that the spirit world also exists. We also know that this world and the spirit world are not separate. They must be connected. People are born, go through the springtime of their life in their teens, 20s and 30s, reach their prime and go on to old age. Thus their lives come to an end like the setting sun. So I'm 69. Would you consider I'm in old age, or am I still in my prime? Yeah. Okay. All right, so I have a long way to go. Good. So, but many of us here, are we approaching the setting sun? Yes. However, those who know the existence of the spirit world know that a lifetime on earth is but a fleeting moment, and the eternal world awaits them after death. Our lifetime is merely preparation for the world of eternity. So I feel so lucky that I met the Unification Church and I studied the divine principle. And I understand clearly about what our life is about, that we are meant to grow in love, that the family is the school of love, and that we go through these different stages of child, of brother, sister, husband and wife, parent, and then even grandparent. Isn't it wonderful to have this understanding? Yeah, and the importance of staying together, and that the blessing is for eternity. So, I mean, of course, before I met the church, I believed in the spirit world, but the divine principle and the understanding has kind of motivated me to live my life in such a way that I want to grow, that I want to develop my heart, and I want to experience God, so that when I leave this earth, I can be in the spiritual world, and I can breathe love, and I can meet all my ancestors, and I can do good from the spirit world. So the divine principle also talks about this in a roundabout way, about our position, the position of human beings. Oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong one there. So I'm highlighting these words. This world and the spirit world are not separate. They must be connected. They're not, they must be connected. So Father's saying, yeah, that's God's desire. They are connected. I want to connect, and they in the spirit world want to connect. Yes, this is God's desire. So we've got to actually increase this. And we live in a time where the kind of communication between the two worlds is increasing all the time. So, but then I come to the divine principle, the position of human beings in the cosmos, because I said in a roundabout way, this is explaining about this connection. So first of all, God created human beings to be the ruler of the universe, because we have 5 physical senses and we have 5 spiritual senses. So we're meant to rule that world that we will live in. And secondly, God created human beings to be the mediator and the center of harmony of the cosmos. Because we have both a physical self and a spiritual self, we can bring the two worlds together. And so we can actually call upon our ancestors. We're meant to connect the two worlds, to connect them to this world and connect us to that world. And thirdly, God created human beings to encapsulate in a substantial form the essences of everything in the cosmos. Accordingly, each person is a microcosm, because all of the elements of the physical world are in our physical body, and all the elements of the spirit world are in our spirit body. So we are meant to be in two worlds, and we are meant to communicate. So I would like to now talk about a man who died a few years ago. He was a famous man, and he has been communicating very much from the spiritual world. So maybe my parents, they could just give me a dream, or I just feel their presence. But this particular man, he has given very direct, specific messages to many people in the world, and especially to his family. So this man is Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I mentioned him one time before. He died at the age of 75 in 2015, and Wayne Dyer was an internationally renowned author and speaker in the fields of self-development and spiritual growth. He began more like in the realm of psychology and trying to understand human behavior. But through his life, he became more and more spiritual. And he actually was being guided by St. Francis, by Lao Tzu, and by Jesus and other, you could say, ascended masters. So he became a very bright light in the world. And he wrote 41 books, including 21 New York Times bestsellers. He also appeared on thousands of television and radio shows. For example, in an interview with Oprah Winfrey. And also this is him speaking in Toronto, Canada. So he traveled the world. He was on TV a lot. And last time I spoke about him, not many people have heard of him. But actually, I've been starting to read his books. And I feel what he writes about resonates with me. And I think he's like speaking in the modern age, bringing a lot of the truths that all the different religions, but he's speaking in a language, a down-to-earth way that is very relatable. So in 2015, after a successful speaking tour in Australia and New Zealand, he died suddenly in his sleep in Maui, Hawaii on August the 30th. He had been traveling with 2 of his daughters, and the husband, and had a very successful tour. But then when they left, they went back to America, and he went to Hawaii, and he was living in a hotel because his home was being renovated. And then 48 hours had passed and no one heard from him. And so many of his family members were having a birthday celebration in Florida. But then they got a phone call saying, have you heard from your father? No. And so his kind of agent, who was at the hotel, was trying to contact him. And so they had to they had to open the door, and he died in his sleep. So they got this phone call, and he had 8 children. So this was a complete shock. It was very difficult for them because they'd just seen him, his 2 daughters. And they talked to him many times, his family was very kind of close to him. And they relied upon him because he had a lot of wisdom. And then he died suddenly. So saying, if my parents were 89 and 93, well, he was 75, but he was very active and had contact with his family every day. So a few weeks passed, and then one of his daughters, his youngest daughter, called Sage Dyer, had a dream. And this is her dream in her own words. Last week, I slept a full 8 hours for one of the first times in a while. My alarm went off at 7 a.m., but I decided to hit snooze and sleep for another 10 minutes. As soon as I hit snooze, I was back in a dream state. However, in my dream, I was exactly where I'd been in reality. My bed in my apartment in New York City. Next thing I knew, I heard my door open and Dad's voice as clear as day. In the funny sort of way he used to speak to me, he said, "Hey!" I immediately jumped out of bed and ran over to him, crying out, "Dad, are you really here?" "Yes, I am really here," he said. Then I said to him, "Dad, I know I am asleep and dreaming, but this is not a dream. This is as real as anything that happens to me when I am awake." He replied that this was real and that he was really there with me. I still felt a little skeptical, so I said to him, "Okay, if you are really here, then I can touch you." He said in a funny, exasperated sort of way, "Touch me." So I grabbed both his arms in my hands, and I could feel his hairy arms that were without a doubt his, exactly the way they were when he was alive. After that, I was convinced. I grabbed him and we hugged each other. Remarkable, remarkable. So this was her experience, very real. So I'd like to talk about this lady, Karen Noah, a psychic medium. Karen Noah had read many of Wayne Dyer's books, had attended his events, and even had met 2 of his children. She had a radio show where she interviewed these 2. Serena Daya and Sage, because Serena Daya had written a book in collaboration with her father called "Don't Die with Your Music Still in You," what I've learned from having spiritual parents. And then also Sage wrote a children's book with him. And later, after his death, they wrote another book together about him and his life and what they learned from him. So Karen Noah, when she heard about the death of him, then she started receiving messages, and that she actually got a phone call from Serena, and they talked, and so she set up a meeting with 4 of her family members: Serena, Sage, her mother, and another daughter, and they had a reading. And at this reading, this dream, she confirmed, it was real, because in a vivid dream, then you're dreaming. And she asked questions, and he gave answers. So for Karin, this medium, it was very clear this was real. But during the time these 4 members of the family went there, then Karin gave each one of them specific messages that only they could know. And now I'd like to read some of those messages that they received during this meeting. So this is, as I say, Serena Daya, and this is her story. Karin said to me, my dad was saying I was pregnant. He said that he was with the baby and there was something about fireworks, but Karin wasn't sure what it meant. He just kept suggesting fireworks on the 4th of July. So at this time, Serena had a 6-month-old baby. So she didn't, you're mixing up with the child I have. But he insisted. And so she later says here, the first thing we did when we left her office was stop at a drugstore for the pregnancy test. Sure enough, it was positive. The fireworks reference, well, my due date was the 4th of July. Little Windsor Wayne made her arrival this past July the 1st on my wedding anniversary. So from spirit world, he was telling her, you're pregnant. I'm with the baby, and the fireworks, it's going to be born. Specific information. Incredible. And now I'd like to read from Sky Dyer. Sky Dyer was traveling with Wayne in Australia. And she is a singer and a songwriter. And she always traveled with him at his events because she always gave the music. And but when he passed, she was like really uncertain about her future, whether she'd continue singing. And so she got this message. When my dad spoke to me through Karin, it was with a gentle voice. When speaking to Serena, his voice was a little rougher. It was exactly how he spoke to us in life. We couldn't believe it. One of the first things Karin said to me that day was, your dad is saying that he comes to visit you as a white bird. And then it blew her mind because a few weeks earlier, this white bird had come to her backyard. And so, oh, sorry, I have to go back. There we are. Okay, so what was incredible is that when she saw this white bird, spontaneously said, hello, Dad. And she said, what am I saying? But in that moment, she felt, Dad. So Karin Noah was confirming, actually, that was your dad. I woke up to an email from Karin. Yeah, so she was, as I said, she didn't know if she wanted to continue singing or what to do. And she said, your dad is saying that he is with you and you have to keep singing. Be fearless. He will still be with you on stage. I couldn't help but smile. You see, my dad always had me write, be fearless, on a piece of paper before I went on stage to sing. Incredible. So he gave messages to his family members, not just these ones. And he continues to do that. Very specific and personal. But actually, Karin Noah she's written 3 books, and her latest book is called We Consciousness, 33 Profound Truths for Inner and Outer Peace. And this book was written because of Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer contacted her from the spiritual world. And this book is also all these personal, these kind of messages that he gave to his family. But also he says, I want my children and my family to know I still exist, and I want to help them, and I can help them. And actually, he's appeared to many people, not just the family. But he said, now in the spiritual world, he kind of understands so much more, and he realizes that on Earth, he was working he was being guided by St. Francis. And he wrote a book about St. Francis' prayer, "Make me an instrument of your peace." And in the spiritual world, he said he has also joined forces with other ascended masters, including St. Francis, including Jesus, including Lao Tzu and other high spirits. And they collaborate together, and they together want to give a message to the earth. And so this called we consciousness means that it's not just him, but a group of them. And the purpose is to give messages of peace. And also Karin herself very much loved St. Francis. And so one reason why he could contact her is because they had many similarities. So what he's saying is that, okay, I'm an individual, I care about my loved ones, but also on earth, I was known for teaching people how to live in a true way, And so in the spiritual world, his mission is to continue, but to work together with others. So these two worlds need to be connected. And if I refer back to what Father said, he said, this world and the spirit world are not separate. They must be connected. So how do we do that? How do we connect the two worlds? How can we? How are they? So I've just come up with some basic points I thought may be helpful. First of all, Wayne Dyer in the spiritual world, what he says, we're all one. We're all one. That's why when people go to the spiritual world and have a life review, he says, then you feel how what you said or what you did to someone else, you feel how they felt. And you might say, well, this is judgment. Maybe I hurt someone and then I feel their pain. But in the spiritual world, everything is one. So you feel how other people feel. We are meant to have empathy, aren't we? So we make mistakes and we say things we shouldn't say, and we hurt a person, we don't even know it. But in the spiritual world, everything is open, so we know it. But there's no judgment. There's no, you're going to go to hell because of you made a mistake. But it's like this awareness. So what he's saying is that when you have this experience of oneness, there can be no kind of you and me, and people can't see themselves as separate. In our physical bodies, we feel we're separate, but in the spiritual world, we don't have a physical body, so we're all one. We still maintain our identity, but we don't feel this separation. Of course, if you're in hell, maybe you do, or maybe you just feel connected to all the evil. But so this is, first of all, spirit world is, we're connected, we are one. We're not separate. Secondly, raise our vibration. So Karen Noah said when she's in a state of positivity and love, that's when Wayne Dyer can communicate to her. She said a few years ago, she was troubled by something because for years she's been giving readings to people who have loved ones, but she couldn't connect for a certain time with angels, and she couldn't understand why. And she went for a walk and she was asking, I know you can hear me, but but I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And she kept repeating this, and she was upset because, where have you gone? But then on her way home, when she got home and she saw outside her home all these flowers and the beauty of the flowers, she she felt so much love for the creation and so happy. And when she went inside her home, she had such feelings of gratitude and love. And then I've missed something out, because on her journey out, she saw a cloud, and the cloud was the shape of an ear with a finger in it. And when she saw that, she thought it was strange. But when she got home, she realized what that meant is that she wasn't listening. So to listen, you have to raise your vibration. If you're in a state of peace and harmony and gratitude and love, then you're raised because the spiritual world is on a high vibration. So they have to lower they lower their vibration, we raise ours, then we can meet in the middle. Next, of course, pray. Jesus said, ask, and if you believe, you will receive. So we can talk about on the earth, you can pray for things. We talk about the law of attraction, that if you believe something, that you will attract it. But we have to ask. So if you ask for guidance, the spirit world wants to. Why? Because the spirit world is there to serve us. And then, of course, if you meditate, meditation is about stopping the thoughts, the chatter. Wayne Dyer said to Coronel, get out of the way. When he wanted to give a message to someone, get out of the way so I can come through. So stop your thinking, the chatter, the internal chatter. That's why meditation, you have a stillness and a calmness, and then you can listen, you can hear. And then the last one I like to bring up is when Father, so these are all what we can do. So we're open and receptive. But there's something called electronic voice phenomenon. And so when Father said, create a machine that can communicate with spirit world, this already exists. You can search for it. It already exists. There was some man who had a conversation with a spirit like for an hour, backwards and forwards. So this is going to happen. And then no one can say there is no spirit world. No one can say there's no life after death. It will be confirmed through technology, and it already is happening, and they just have to improve the technology. So with those thoughts, I'd like to say thank you for listening. Thank you.